All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started again. Those outside can start to trickle in as I'm introducing myself, but my name's Chris York. I'm with the Applications and Records. I'm excited to be here to talk to you today. I'm talking about proofs, certificates, and title. It's kind of a tough time slot for the both of us. You guys, you know, your coffee, your Mountain Dew, your Coke is starting to wear off. Maybe the sugar rush you've peaked and now you're coming down. So it's up to me to try and keep you awake. But luckily this topic, it's as good or better than a cup of coffee. So just right up front, I just want to clarify, this is kind of, we'll call it the Reader's Digest version. You know, these topics are a lot more complicated. You can get a lot more in-depth than what I'm going to get into. So I encourage you to seek additional training opportunities if these are topics that you want to know more about. And I'm going to do some shameless advertising here. On May 24th, we're going to hold a training for proofs. It'll be about the same time as today, so about 8 or 8:30 till the early afternoon. And then on August 30th, we're going to do a more in-depth title training. So if those are things you're interested in, please feel free to watch our website, and there'll be more information there. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about extension requests, submitting proof of beneficial use. We'll talk about proof affidavits and what they are, and then we'll go into some certificates and end with title. So Clark said every good process has a flow chart. I think that's what he said. And so I'm going to say that every good presentation has a flow chart that you stole from somebody else. So this is Clark's flow chart that he had in his presentation. And this is kind of a zoom of the portion that I will be talking about, and that's proofs and certificates. All right, so yay, you have an approved change an approved application. So you're done, right? Well, no. We will put this application in a tracker, and it's up to you guys to start putting this project into place and getting this water into beneficial use. And so this tracker will notify us when your proof due date, which is delineated in your application. It tells you when your proof is due. It will give us a heads up that, hey, your due date is coming up, and we will send you a 60-day notice. At that point, that should kind of be a catalyst for you to say, hey, I need to do something, either submit proof or submit an extension of time, which I'll talk about in just a moment. If you do neither, you are at risk of your application lapsing. And a common misconception, people think, oh, I'm putting my water beneficial use, there's nothing else I need to do. If you do ignore these notices, even if you are using that water as described in that application, it can still lapse if you don't submit proof. So, and as Clark talked about, there is a reinstatement process if it does lapse, but let's just not let it get to that point. So you can file for an extension. Let's say you get that 60-day notice and you say, oh, wait, I haven't completed everything. There is an avenue for you to submit an extension. And it is important to note that you have to be diligently trying to put this to beneficial use and making progress. You can't, submit an extension request and say, I've been in Hawaii for the last 5 years and I may get around to it, but give me an extension anyways. It's, for example, if you submitted for a domestic use with irrigation and livestock, maybe it was just an empty lot and you've built a house and you're in the process of drilling a well, but you need more time. There's financial hardships. We are very reasonable people. So go ahead, and if you need to, submit for an extension of time. There is a form on our website and a $50 fee. If you are at 14 years past your application being approved and you're still submitting for an extension, at this point we are probably going to we're going to take a more critical look at it, maybe scrutinize it a little more. There will be an additional fee if you're submitting requests out beyond 14 years, and we will also re-advertise. It is a $150 fee. So, all right. If you are ready, you're putting that water to beneficial use, and you say, "Hey, I want the state engineer to know about this." It's time to submit proof, and there are forms on our website, and the proof process typically requires a professional to be hired. There is one caveat to that, and we will talk about affidavit of beneficial use. So as professional is either an engineer or a land surveyor. And the reason we ask you to hire a professional is because we need to obtain a measurement from the source, and we also require a map to be submitted and also the location to be surveyed. So it also helps us establish credibility. It's somebody giving their stamp of approval, if you will, saying that this is how the water is being used. So it just establishes that credibility with the state engineer. So they fill out the form, they produce the map and everything, and when it's complete to the best of their knowledge, they submit it to the regional office, and the regional office will take a look and make sure that everything is completed, and they'll say, okay, yes, or maybe there's some differences between the proof and the approved application, in which case we may need to make amendments. If it's minor, something like, oh, we drilled the well 50 feet away in the side yard instead, or something like that, okay, we can probably waive that. But if you submitted for irrigation and now all of a sudden you're using it for domestic and indoor uses, then we'll go ahead and need to make those necessary amendments. So, as I mentioned, there is one loophole, if you will, as far as submitting proof. In one instance, you won't need to hire a proof professional, and that's if you are submitting for a small usage. We like to take care of the little guys here. So this is what we call an affidavit of beneficial use, or proof affidavit. You'll hear them kind of used. They're the same thing, just different terminology. And so a small filing is considered indoor domestic use, quarter acre of irrigation or less, and 10 livestock or less. We won't accept an affidavit of beneficial use on anything other than those three uses. So you can't, submit for mining or industrial purposes and expect to be able to submit an affidavit of beneficial use. So in basically the simplest terms, an affidavit of beneficial use just allows you to submit your own proof. It eliminates that filing fee, or the fee that it would the fee for hiring a proof professional, so that is great. We do have some additional requirements, so there is that form on our website. It's called the Affidavit of Beneficial Use, found under the Forms page. We also ask that you submit a map of beneficial use, and there's an area for you to fill out the map on that form. We also ask that you obtain a plat map from the county recorders, which you should be able to get for a nominal fee. And we also ask that you also submit a certificate of occupancy. And if you have trouble obtaining a certificate of occupancy, we will also allow you to submit a tax notice showing that there is a home on the notice. So this is the form. On the left-hand side is basically where you need to fill things out, and the right-hand side is that area where where you can put the map. And this is going to be an example of a map that we would have accepted. It shows where the home is. It delineates the property boundary. It shows the well location and gives some measurements from the property corners. And probably most importantly, it shows the acreage and that it is less than the quarter acre. So you're good to go for filing a proof affidavit. And it's got the north arrow. And it's important at the bottom. It probably shouldn't have to be a reminder, but we've seen maps come in and it doesn't give a name or a water right number. So please make sure you fill that out. Some common questions we see. Yes, if you file a proof affidavit, it will get a certificate of beneficial use, assuming everything is acceptable. We say you don't have to hire a professional, but if for whatever reason you want to, you feel more comfortable, you need that help, you're more than welcome to. So, and it's also important to note, as in many cases, shares of stock in an irrigation company are treated a little bit differently. In this case, if you are filing a proof affidavit, you need to make sure that the irrigation company also signs the affidavit. All right, so you've submitted proof. The regional office has accepted it. They've looked at it. They did a field investigation or looked at aerial imagery. Things look like they're consistent. What will happen is the Applications and Records Department or section will receive these proofs, and they'll also come with a draft certificate, and we'll review the draft certificate, the proofs, the application, make sure everything jives, and if it all looks good, we'll issue a final certificate, and the state engineer will review and sign that, and it will be issued on the same day as it's signed, and it'll be sent out to the water user. It's important for you guys to review that certificate, make sure it's complete and that it looks good. Everything's as it should be, and that is your record. So I would hold on to that, file it. It is now optional. You can record it with the county recorders. It used to be a requirement. I would encourage you to do it, but it is not mandatory. But again, we would definitely encourage that. And like everything, if you don't agree, there's let us know, and there are processes you can take to inform us that something is not correct. And at this point, you are beneficially using your water. If you have a certificate, just keep using it and enjoy. If for whatever reason you need to make changes, point of diversion, nature of use, those things, make sure you file a change application with us. And if you anticipate going through extended periods of non-use, go ahead and submit a non-use application with us. So at this point, I'm going to transition over to title. So if there's any kind of questions related to that topic, you can either ask them now or we can wait till the end of the presentation. But I will be transitioning to title. So. And same disclosure here, again, I mentioned we have that training opportunity on August 30th. That will go into much greater detail and give you greater information. So I encourage you to seek that opportunity if it's something you're interested in. All right. So water rights transfer by deed in substantially the same manner as in real estate. And a pertinent water rights transfer silently with the land unless that water has previously been deeded off or if it is specifically reserved. Deeds conveying water rights need to be recorded both in the county where the place of use is taking place and also where the point of diversion is. We've seen in a number of cases where the point of diversion and the place of use either straddle a county line or the point of diversion takes place kind of, maybe a little bit further away than from where the place of use is. So we need that recorded in both those counties if that applies to you. There's a fun transition. So this image kind of shows what it would be like in an ideal world. There would be this transfer of information from the county recorder to the Division of Water Rights back and forth. That does not happen. We do not monitor what comes into the county recorder. We really rely on the water user to update us as to who owns that water right. So if you look on our records and it shows an owner, that doesn't mean that is the true owner of the water right. It just means that that's who we haven't been made aware of who the owner is. So just to kind of reiterate that fact, the county recorder is the official record keeper. They maintain all the deeds, certificates if they were recorded, which they should have been prior in the years past. Of course, moving forward, it is optional. They are supposed to keep an index of water deeds now, and also if you do submit an assignment, which is basically the transfer of unapproved or unperfected water rights, that needs to be recorded with the county recorder, and that page or that form should be available on our website. Since we're not living in the ideal world, I know it's kind of hard to read, but I put a bunch of discrepancies in there. That's just discrepancies written over and over again in between what the county recorder and the Division of Water Rights, the two records. So how do we go about eliminating these discrepancies? What we ask you to do is to keep updated information with the Division of Water Rights. So you'll hear it multiple times throughout today. We ask that you keep a current address with us, but we also ask that you keep current ownership information with us. So how do you do that, and who can do that? An owner is allowed to update title if the deed specifically references the water right number. Most often, a title expert is going to be, you're going to need to hire a title expert, and that can be an attorney, a professional engineer, professional land surveyor, and what they're calling a title insurance producer, basically a title agent. And kind of for the same reasons as we need an engineer or a surveyor to submit proof. This is a complex issue, and a thorough title search is necessary at the county recorder to ensure that a proper title update is done. So how do you do it? You submit a report of conveyance, which these forms are available on our website, and it basically is telling who the current owner of the water right is. You're telling the division who it is. So on a report of conveyance, you're showing a clean chain of title from the owner of record on our website or our database to whoever the current owner is. And it's important to note that you submit one report of conveyance for each water right you're trying to update title to. So Farmer John can't submit one report of conveyance on his entire farm and expect all 15 water rights to be updated. One water right, one ROC. So this is the form. This is for 100% conveyance. So there are two forms. There's 100% and partial. So if you're updating to 100%, obviously you use the 100%, and then this is the partial form. So if you are not updating to 100% of that water right, you would use this one. And they're essentially the same information except in the middle, and if you take a closer look, it'll show kind of a breakdown of the groups. So we do require that a map be submitted if you're updating by appurtenance. When you're hiring a title professional, they ought to know our mapping standards. They are on our website, so if the title professional is unaware, they should take the time to look at those. But kind of the first thing is we need a section, township, and range identifying where this location or where this update is located. We want a section corner identified. The water right numbers should be identified on the map. There should be a north arrow, a scale, and a legend. And we also require that you show us what parcel it is that you're updating on and the acreage associated with that parcel. So I guess as a general rule, it's a professional map coming from a professional, so it ought to look professional. So if you don't look at the mapping standards, that is the one general rule I would say, that it ought to look professional. But if it doesn't meet our standards, then it will get sent back. So, all right, I'll talk a little bit about addendums. So what is an addendum? It's basically, what an addendum is it's an attachment to a deed. And in simple terms, it's basically a simplified report of conveyance, and in which a grantor and a grantee, it basically creates dialogue about what water rights are being conveyed from the grantor to the grantee. The grantor needs to be the owner of record on our website. And the grantor and the grantee must sign the addendum, and the grantee must have a current address and must maintain that current address with the division. So you record this addendum with the county recorder, and they are now required to send these to the Division of Water Rights, to the Office of the State Engineer. The nice thing about this is there would be no filing fee, because you're not filing, you're recording it with the county recorder, and they send it to us. Kind of the drawback is that in the statute there is no designated time frame for when that has to be sent over. So if this is something that needs to be done in a timely fashion, we still encourage you to just submit a report of conveyance. We don't want it to sit at the county recorders and you have to keep bugging them to try and send it over. So we just encourage you, if it's something that's a pressing matter, just go ahead and file a report of conveyance. So I guess if there's anything you're going to take away from the title portion of this, it's that you need to do your due diligence when you're buying or selling or updating to a water right. A lot of people like to put the blame on us. We have a great title section. Sue and Dana do a great job, and they take a lot of blame for things that they didn't do, and then that's not their mistake or their problem. So make sure that you are taking the time and making sure that you understand what you are buying or updating title to. So again, transfers by appurtenance require a map. file a report of conveyance with the division. Those forms are available on our website. And let me just make sure I covered things that were going to be in the tests. Yep, I think we're good. So you guys have any questions or no? Okay, great. Oh, okay.
Good try there. Just a quick question. What if you're already the owner of a water right and you just want to update an address, contact information? Is there a form online? Do we just call and give that information? It's not a record of conveyance, correct?
No. So on our website, there is an address update, and there's a form to submit to update your address. You don't have to go through this process.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe also the Jim Reese will be covering website training, and he's probably going to go into the forms section and kind of show you where some of these things are. I know we make reference to a lot of these, and don't expect you to know. You just take our word for it that it's on there, I guess.
What's the reason for the thinking of 5 years to complete a proof? I just was curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, so it just, how long is it going to take you to, really, it's basically so you aren't speculating in water. We're putting a time frame that seems reasonable, and if you need more time, you can submit that extension of time. But hopefully 5 years will allow you to have made some effort and show that you've done some work to try and put that to beneficial use.
Well, I was just curious because we do a lot with just wells, and I see people just put it aside and forget about it once it's approved. And then 5 years comes up, they sell it to somebody else or something, it ends up getting lost and lapsed.
Yeah. And
I would like to see it shorter, maybe 1 year.
well, in an ideal world, we'd like to see people not take 5 years and not even have to get that 60-day notice to kind of put a fire, and that should happen. If you've done everything you needed to do, it should be in before that 5 years. But different situations. A lot of times people come across financial hardship and things. It's understandable. So.
Also, we have a lot of old water rights that are both exchanges and change applications. Can you explain the difference in the two, and does an exchange require a proof?
Yeah, so a change application is, so you have an application to appropriate or something, and you want to change the use or the point of diversion or something, so you file a change application. An exchange is basically you're taking water from a different source or from a different place in exchange for different water. It's often associated with storage, and you'll see it a lot of times up in with the Weber Basin Conservancy District. They do a lot of exchanges up there. So.
Is there anything that really, when you talk about water, doing water as a deed, can people transfer that? Well, you accept a deed, a water deed, as proof of change of ownership if they bring that in.
Yeah, and you would file a report of conveyance with the water deed. And
do they still have to hire a engineer or whatever, or can it just be done with the deed?
Well, it's circumstantial. So if everything has and I'll look to my title expert, but if the deeds refer to the water right number, you can do it by yourself. But
so would the deed need to have the water right number as well as, like, if there's the irrigation company stock, it would need the stock certificate and shares used or whatever?
So shares are a different story, but yes, the water deed would have to reference the water right number.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good morning. I just have a quick question. When we're dealing with water rights by deed, we have a warranty deed, we have a special warranty deed, and a quick claim deed.
Yes.
Which one is the proper form to transfer water rights by deed from one owner to a new owner?
So any of the deeds work. We always say it just depends on your situation. We don't say one is better than the other. We deal with warranty deeds, special warranty deeds, and quitclaim deeds. So it doesn't matter to us. It just depends on your situation.
Is there any kind of public database for transferring water deeds?
For transferring
Well, like
water
for
deeds?
buying and selling, I understand it's owned by the public,
Yeah,
but
not public that I'm aware of. We don't deal with that. It's all separate transactions. But there are databases for the buying and selling of water, but we just don't deal with that. We don't monitor them. We don't have anything to do with them. They're all private, to
they're
the
all,
best of my knowledge. So.
How do you know if a water right has been transferred as an appurtenant to the property or a separate deed? And is one better than the other?
So that's what a thorough title search will kind of suss out for you. Yeah. So there's like going to the county recorder and doing a thorough title search is the way to determine that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And we do have a list for both proof and title. We have a list of professionals, and that is on our website as well.
Chris, I want. I like that. It looks like the sun's coming. Chris, well done. I just wanted to mention, you mentioned about appurtenances and deeding water rights. I just encourage everybody to deed your water rights by a water right number and explain what it is. There's actually a deed addendum now that has been developed under the statute that if you'll do a deed addendum with those deeds and explain what that water right is and what uses are being conveyed, that gets recorded with the county recorder. That deed addendum then gets sent by the county recorder to our office, and we treat that addendum as a report of conveyance. So you don't really have to have a professional take care of that. That acts as the report of conveyance. But people customarily treat water rights pretty casually. And if you convey a piece of land, and as has been mentioned, if you don't reserve a water right, it goes automatically with the land, and people sometimes don't understand that. So we're just trying to get people thinking. It goes that way, but you really ought to be listing your water rights and specifically spelling it out what you're conveying, and then everybody understands what it is. And it takes a little bit of the guessing out of it. But I just wanted to throw that in. It's very helpful if you'll spell it out, and if you'll do these deed addendums associated with your deeds, and then the process goes a lot quicker. So.
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned, it gets that dialogue between the grantor and the grantee flowing about. No pun intended on the flowing, but it gets about what water rights are being conveyed.
If you buy property that has shares in an irrigation company, will the irrigation company have record if water's been transferred on and off that property, the shares, or does that get recorded someplace
Yeah,
else?
so you would go through the irrigation company to determine that.
That's the only place that would be.
when water rights have been transferred, basically to a trust or to people that are part of the trust, owners of the trust. The question I have is, and the land is still there, they can't really transfer those water rights, can they, without a transfer of land as well? Isn't there a problem there, and how is that resolved?
Yeah, so we always we always caution to watch out for those deeds, because we've had situations that have really made for complicated situations. So and we always tell professionals that they need to look out for those trust deeds. Yeah, that's been a complicated issue for some
Yeah,
things.
the question is a case where the water rights were transferred to the trust, members of the trust, in really, the water rights should have been transferred with the land, and certain members of the trust didn't own part of the land, so it looks to me like there's a conflict there, and I guess I can come back and individually maybe talk to some of you guys, what's
Yeah,
needed to be
if
done
you-
on that.
Especially if you have a specific situation, we can talk about that.
We are planning a training session just for title too. Our title section does about a 2-hour training thing, and they'll do these classes periodically. If you're interested specifically just in title, we won't go into that depth through this presentation, but those will be available. And will they be on our website? Yeah, so we'll post them on our website when we're going to have those, and you're welcome to come to those and receive that training. But it's pretty bright. It gets a little complicated when you start dealing with all the intricacies of conveyance of water rights. But there's some basic rules, but then there's a lot of little things you have to be careful of. So.
Sounds like you might want to come to that August 30th training. All right. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to, I'll be around, and you can stop by at lunch or whatever. So we're always happy to field any questions, so give us a call or come talk to us or send us an email. So.